They'll stay home. They'll probably go out and commit other crimes. So we can put them on house arrest, working with law enforcement. The ankle bracelet, we can make parameters. So let's say we put them on house arrest. So we can draw a square around their house, and then if they go outside of that square, they'll get a call. Well, they'll get a little, it's not like a dog collar shock, but it's a little bit of a buzz on their leg. Yeah. And so they'll get a call from electronic monitoring company to tell them step back in. If they don't answer, then the electronic monitoring company calls who's ever on call with intake. Intake will try to call the house. If that doesn't work, they're still outside the parameters, they'll call law enforcement to let them know that they've absconded. The same thing will go on if the juvenile breaks the band on the bracelet or cuts it. So you can break the plate, and that's what connects it to the bracelet. So you can break the plate, and that's a $6 plate. Okay, or you can be really silly and cut the band, which is a $900 decision. So one of the things that we do when we have the kids on the electronic monitoring device, we kind of show them this. And it's not like we're encouraging them to cut their band or break the plate, but we're kind of making a disclaimer like if you decide that you are going to abscond or take this off, we kind of recommend that you break the plate as opposed to cutting it because you're going to be charged. Now, and it's a crime to do that, but they don't want to have to pay that $900. And we've had kids that have had to pay that. That's a lot of money for somebody that age. So those are the accesses to our services. When you look at Cheyenne County specifically, we had 8 youth go through intake and assessment in fiscal year 21, 3 youth on intensive probation, then there was not any youth on immediate intervention program. Another program that we provide, and this would be the final page, is the Parent Project. And the Parent Project is a service that we provide for the families of offenders and families of non-offenders. And the non-offender families pay $30 for the book, and that's all they pay. The reason why we have to charge them is because we have a grant the allocation is only for parents of offenders, and that's just the grant. The class is 10 weeks, 2 hours a week. And so you can see that's a pretty cheap, so it's like $3 a class if you want to look at it that way. And it's an evidence-based program. So it shows that it has success rates for strong-willed kids. And that's typically the population we work with is the strong-willed kids. So when we have this class, we will take a flyer to the school. We'll let the judge know. I think they'll let the county attorney know. We're having one soon, so they'll be letting you know. And we'll hang up flyers, different areas. And so we did have one parent take part from Cheyenne County. And I believe it was the parent of actually, I know it was a parent of a youth on intensive probation. And that class it wasn't as well attended in fiscal year 21 because it was all via Zoom, pretty much. And so now we're definitely in person. And we are going to offer a little bit of Zoom. So let's say you have a class in, let's say Norton, and you have one parent in Cheyenne County, and this happens quite regularly. One parent in Cheyenne County, one parent in Rawlins County, one parent in Smith Center. Well, you can't expect, we offer to let them come in person, but that's a long drive for a 2-hour class, which usually they occur in the evenings. So we can do it via Zoom, and I think we're starting one Zoom class just because we have that particular issue as we have them based all over. But we travel around doing the classes. So we have had a class in Atwood, and when we had the class in Atwood, the person that was doing the class actually came up here and picked up the woman to take her to the class in Atwood because that person did not have transportation. We had people that come from Atwood. We had people that actually came from Colby. And then she had one person in her car from Norton and then another person in her car from Oberlin. And so we were transporting people to make a group. And I have a success story on this, is we had a very strong-willed parent that did not like to be told what to do. And she had been through every parenting class that you could ever think of, according to her. And I said, well, it is a court order that you attend, so that's a little bit of an issue. And I said, however, if you will attend just one class, if you don't like it, then I'll call the county attorney and ask if you can you don't have to take this, because I could see that this was going to be all out war with her. I attended the first class that she was at. She sat in a corner, arms crossed, and she was not going to do anything. Well, she stayed in it. And I went to about the 5th week. She's up to the table, and she's talking, and she's contributing. And now we're going to start a class, and she's going to drive 30 miles to be a co-facilitator for this class. That's how much she believes in this. And the change in her parenting with her daughter and her daughter's change has just been phenomenal. The daughter went to prom. She never would have went to prom prior to this. The daughter is involved in some pro-social activities, and she never would have done this. So I think that, I contribute a lot of it to the parenting class, and then to the programming that the intensive supervision officer provided through the Forward Thinking program. And that's a one-on-one program that works on thinking errors. And it's designed to work with whatever area you have as a risk. So, for instance, if your family is a risky area based on a screening tool, there's a book that is interactive journaling for family issues. There's an interactive journaling for peer issues. There's interactive journaling for alcohol, drug issues. Pretty much any risk that you would have as a teenager, there's interactive journaling for that. And so we have Deanne Dreitz out of Colby that will come up and meet one-on-one with the kids and do at least 30 minutes a week of the interactive journaling. Kind of depends on what level of risk they are. And then also she's the one that does the one-on-one addiction treatment for the agency, and she'll do the 8-hour education classes for those kids that have a minor in possession and that are with our agency. Some of the other programs that we have is sex offender treatment. That is a statewide grant, and so a youth that's, it could be even prior to adjudication. If they're accused of a sex crime, they can get an evaluation by clinical associates free of charge. And then based on that, they can have the outpatient treatment through clinical associates free of charge. And that's a statewide grant. Now, I don't like it as well as I like the services we provide, only because we provide things face-to-face. We drive to where the kids are, and we are not going to expect Zoom for 100% of everything. Our sex offender treatment is 100% Zoom. Because that's unfortunate. When I sat in on a meeting and they said, well, only a certain percent are going to be done via Zoom. And I said a certain percent of each kid's sessions or a certain percent of the state. And they said certain percent in the state. I said, okay, 100% of mine are going to be done via Zoom. I already know this. And that's exactly what's happening. But we don't oversee that program. So, but it's better than nothing. There's also functional family therapy, which is for kids, the parents of kids on intensive probation. That would be a therapist that comes in home, and they do come in person. And so if we have a kid that is on intensive probation, we can assign that. There is some funding that we're trying. I think that this fiscal year we'll get it, that we can also provide the functional family therapy for kids on immediate intervention. And then we have contracts with addiction treatment providers as well as mental health treatment providers, which is the big thing here because we already have our own in-house addiction treatment. But we do have contracts with mental health providers where we'll pay for the mental health services for the youth that are on immediate intervention or the intensive supervised probation. And then we had a meeting last week, and we were brainstorming. How could we help our families even more than what we're helping? Because I feel like the barriers to services or the barriers to success are what has a lot to do with success. And so one of the things that we've started doing is I really want the officers to get to know the parents so that they can say, this is what's going on. This is why this is an issue. So, for instance, there was a young girl. We were transporting her from Goodland to Colby 3 times a week for the GED program because she did not have transportation. As I'm taking her back to Goodland, she just starts talking about she doesn't know where they're going to live, and so as I'm talking, they're getting evicted. Well, talking to her mother, the reason why they're getting evicted is because they're a couple months past due rent, or at least a month past due rent, and the mom was a CNA, and she was paying the rent up until she hurt her wrist. And then once she hurt her wrist, she had to have surgery. Well, she doesn't have vacation or sick leave long enough to not go back to work during that 8 weeks or whatever it was. So we worked with the landlord to pay the past due rent, and then worked with mom to identify, okay, you're only earning this amount and you're paying this amount. Recognize this is going to be a constant issue, that you are going to be behind in rent or very close to behind in rent. And so we helped her find a house that was $200 a month cheaper. The reason why she hadn't done this in the first place was because when she moved into this more expensive house, she didn't have to have a down payment. So she just had to have first month's rent, which was cheaper than first month's, a deposit, and whatever else they would have charged. And that's why she was in this predicament in the first place. And so that's one of the areas that we've really worked on. And then we're trying to get kids involved in school, whether it be high school or college or a VOTEC or job skills. And so we're going to really focus on the Workforce Center, doing an interest inventory, trying to get the kids motivated to, like, what is your goal in the future? What would you really like to do? And if this is what you'd like to do, how is what you're doing right now going to help you get there? Or what kind of things could we help you do so that you get there? So those are the things that we're doing.
But you also, through juvenile services, if there is a child that needs to be removed from the home, then it's juvenile services that is contacted for police protective custody for temporary placement.
Right, through intake and assessment.
Right.
If it's, after hours. Yes, we do that.
Yeah, I think that's the lady I worked with at one time.
Did you, Jennifer, maybe?
I'm not sure what her name was, but
Yeah.
What he was put in protective custody?
they had me in protective custody. My wife. Okay, well,
Let me know, too, if you need anything or...
Will do.
Okay. All right.
Super.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
thank you.
Thank you.
I learned about the rails and trails. I had no idea any of that. And I like rails and trails, so...
Probably good ones in there.
Yeah, we don't have them in Norton. I really wish we did, though, because I like to bike, and I'm not biking on that little highway with the shoulder about those kids. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thanks, Peggy.
Hi, everybody. Just a few things this morning. Update on our COVID numbers. As of yesterday, we had 16 positive COVIDs in the county. We've got one COVID admission in the hospital. Just one at this point. Vaccines, we have started, County Health has started the additional vaccine. It's labeled additional vaccine, and it is for the
compromised?
Yeah, that. It's for those patients that, immunocompromised patients. So that additional vaccine has been started. The booster vaccine, which hadn't been approved by the FDA yet, we're waiting on update on that. If it is approved, which at this point I'm hearing that it doesn't look like it's going to be, that it's not needed, and I'm hoping it stays that way. But if they do end up approving it and rolling it out, then we'll be having that available as soon as possible. We vaccinated at this point 1,785. We've given 1,785 vaccines at this point. About 38% of Cheyenne County vaccinated. First doses, 927 first doses and 858 second doses. Our patient volume at the hospital clinic is really busy right now. We're doing a lot of screening, COVID screening right now, so that's keeping us really busy. But overall, we are staying really busy in the clinic. Outpatient is staying really busy. We're doing quite a bit of outpatient therapy right now, COVID-related treatments, so we're doing quite a bit of that right now. Lab, radiology, those services are staying really busy. Our swing bed volume is down a little bit right now, but we sort of prefer it that way when we've got COVID positive patients in the building and admitted in the building. So everything else, it looks like it's going pretty well. The CT trailer, it was the new CT machine. It was supposed to have already been installed. GE called us and bumped that a week, delayed it for a week. They were having trouble getting manufacturing parts in for that machine. So they bumped us to this week. We were supposed to start this week, and they called us Monday and bumped us again to next week. So in that process, we negotiated. We fussed at GE about that because we had to do a contract to rent a mobile unit to have in place, and so they agreed to pick up the expense of the mobile unit. So that I will take a couple of weeks getting bumped on our install if they're funding the mobile unit. So I think we'll be all right there. Everything else seems to be going pretty well right now. We've had several employees out with COVID. I think we've got a couple of employees that have been quarantined and now they're started back to work this week that have been released back to work. So we're looking pretty good right now. I'm pleased with the way it's being handled right now. Our numbers, they are climbing, but knock on wood, it's not real bad. So thankful for that. That is about all I have for you this morning. Any questions for me?
I don't have any, I don't think.
Neither do I.
How's the severity of the COVID? Is it less than it was, or about the same?
We've had both. We've had patients that are COVID positive that were vaccinated and having both series of the vaccine, and they still are getting COVID. But the patients that we're seeing right now, they're not real severe. I mean, they're recovering. And so we've had a couple of scares with a couple of patients that we thought may have a hard time. But right now, they're recovering pretty well and doing well. So very thankful. Our medical staff is doing nursing staff, they're doing a heck of a job handling it and treating it. And I can't say enough great things about them. They're very, very good at it, and I'm really happy that even this morning talking about our respiratory department. We're so fortunate to have a respiratory department in such a small community that is capable of handling ventilators. We have 3 new ventilators that we got this time last year, and we've got a very strong respiratory department that knows how to run those ventilators and how to manage patients on those ventilators. And you just don't see small hospitals like this very often being able to do that. That's just not a resource they have. And just can't say enough about our clinical staff all the way around. Great group and doing a great job, and doing our best to manage it right here in-house. And for the most part, we've been able to do that. So, good group.
Yes, they are.
Good. Okay, well, thank you for your time and
What's
coming.
that?
We thank you for your time to
Yes,
come in
sir.
and
Thank you,
inform
guys.
us.
Sure appreciate it. Y'all have a good one.
You too. I guess we're ready to adjourn. You got any more? You have anything else?
I have nothing further.
I think I do.
No, neither do I. Ready to adjourn?
I so move.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?